What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle. This is going to be an H1Z1 video log. I was going to do a weekend review, but with the way things have worked out this week, it has just become, all of my plans have been utterly just ruined by the H1Z1 release. And so unfortunately, in between trying to record around the fact that the game's not working and everything else, I am just so far behind on everything right now. And honestly, that was a managerial mistake on my part. If I had known the drama that was going to surround H1Z1 and how difficult it was going to be to record this series, actually in hindsight, I probably wouldn't have done a series on it until like 2 or 3 months from now, but hindsight's always 2020. A number of people have pointed out that my impressions were not necessarily so clear and that it looks like I'm having a lot of fun in the videos, and indeed, I am having fun in the H1Z1 videos. And so I wanted to clear this up for people because I want people to know my impressions of the game, and I want to have a video that people can point to, aside from just my playthroughs, that will show my opinion about the game so that it's there. And then, let me make this a little bit more distinct for everybody. When I was a kid, we didn't get a lot of video games, neither did a lot of my friends. And so if you got a bad video game, typically you had like 3 bad video games and you had to wait a long time, like maybe till Christmas before you get another game. Therefore, you learn to make the best out of a bad situation. And to this day, I have obsessions with games that are terrible on the Sega Genesis, but I still think they're fun because I made the best out of a bad situation because I didn't have a choice. I have friends that are the exact same way about terrible games where I'm just like, how many times have you beaten that game? I don't know, probably 100. It's not any good though. He's like, yeah, I know it's not any good, but I grew up playing it, so I just keep doing it because I didn't have an option back then and just kind of like grew on me. From that, I've learned to make the best out of a bad situation. I'm always positive when it comes to like playing a game. Like, I'm going to get enjoyment out of just about any game, whether it's Two Worlds, which was universally panned as a terrible game. I still had fun with it. I bought it for $4 and then, I played it over a weekend when I was bored. It wasn't an amazing game. It was pretty bad, actually, as far as games are concerned. But I still got enjoyment out of it because that's just a skill that you develop when you don't get games very often when you were younger. You get a bad game, you just learn to muscle your way through it and be like, and have a good time with it anyways. There's been a few people, and by a few people I mean several, that have blown up my inbox sort of suggesting that I'm putting on a happy face and pretending to like the game so that it will sell more. And I want to be clear here, that is not the case at all. I can find enjoyment in any video game. It's just, I'm easy to please. If people don't like that, I am. My Let's Plays have always been sort of just me having fun with a game. I've played games that I was kind of like about because I saw the potential to have a lot of fun playing it for an audience. Like, sometimes when you have an audience, you can actually make a bad game seem fun and good, and, you can have a good time with it while at the same time addressing the game's problems. And I think what happened here is that I just started, like, playing the game and just kind of, like, cracking jokes and doing my thing, my one-liners, and, like, kind of doing my act. And unfortunately, covering the game in terms of its components got left by the wayside. And so this will be the video that people can point to where I can give you my 100% opinions about H1Z1. This video log will also be standing in for the weekend review because unfortunately with the way the week is gone, I only had time to make one video log this weekend and I wanted it to be this one. Essentially because I'm firefighting right now. I mean, I could call it something else, but at the moment, I feel like there's a very, very big misunderstanding between not necessarily fans. My video landed like high on the search returns, and so I've got a lot of people coming in from Reddit who are just dead set on just murdering the game, and then also taking it out on me because I've decided to play it on YouTube. That's fine, there's not really much I can do about that, but this video will be linked at the beginning of the first episode of that series, so that if people want my impressions instead of me just like dicking around playing the game and like making jokes and having fun, they can point over here and they can actually have like my adult, like, let's not make one-liners. This is my adult opinion about the game. So with H1Z1, there's a lot of problems. First and foremost, the entire release of the game was predicated on a lie. Smedley, John Smedley, I think, who's a producer, he's somebody high up with SOE who's overseeing the development of the game, 8 months ago on Reddit, made a post where he said you would never be able to pay for guns. On day one when the game came out, you can pay for airdrops, which are full of guns. So if you just remove the middle part of that sentence, what happens right here? So what some people will say is they're like, oh, it's not pay to win because you're paying for the chance to get a crate. Well, if you look at it at its most simple forms, though, you're paying money, and what's inside the crate? Guns and ammo. So, therefore, whether or not you get the guns and ammo, you're still paying money for guns and ammo to show up on the map in one regard or another. And that lie has been brought forward. Smedley apologized for it publicly. I don't take that apology seriously because Smedley is known for doing things like this. And so I think that's actually why I kind of didn't think about it either, is because I played EverQuest, I played EQ2, I followed Sony for a long time, And honestly, everything, Smedley's job is to lie to customers to get them hyped up for a game. That's his job. No matter what he said in his apology, he's been doing that now for a long, long time. If I had a nickel for every time Smedley went back on something he said, you'd have like a shit ton of nickels. And so since I'm experienced with John Smedley, it just kind of like, I just didn't even think about it. I was like, oh, Smedley lied? Okay, it's raining outside. Like, so what? Like, that's what he does. But I can understand why a lot of people are upset about it. You can't predicate an entire or base an entire foundation of a launch on the concept of not having pay for guns in the game, and then on the first day allowing people to pay for guns in the game. I honestly think what they were trying to do is they were just gauging to see what would happen. I actually really think that's what they were trying to do, if you wanted my opinion about it. With the whole money for crates thing, I think their plan was just to like put it in on day one and just like see how big the stink was going to be. And if there was a giant outcry, they will do what they are doing right now, and they'll backpedal, they'll apologize, they'll tone it down, and then they'll move forward. But if people didn't make a stink, they'd leave it in the game, and then they'd make a lot more money. I actually think that was kind of what they were playing with. I can't prove it, but just coming from like a managerial sense, I think that's the idea that they were toying around with. It's just like, let's see how bad this blows up. And if it blows up really, really bad, we'll backpedal really fast and we'll make things better over the course of a patch or two, and then just kind of like tailor things. And if nobody seems to care, or if the internet just skips over it, then we'll just leave it and we'll make extra money because of it. I actually think that's probably what they were shooting for. But yeah, the game was built on that lie right there. Like, a lot of people that backed the game would not have backed it or hyped it so much had they known you could pay for guns. I'm 100% with the community on this. I'm not okay with being lied to. So don't take the fact that I'm having fun in my videos to be me not saying that I don't share some kind of like common ground with all of you, because frankly, I agree, he should not have lied. That's bullshit. You don't lie to your customers like that to get them interested and then pull the rug out afterwards. Now, that aside, I've done my best with the H1Z1 coverage to have a good time with the game. My channel, my Let's Plays are not reviews, and what I've noticed with H1Z1 is a lot of people are treating my H1Z1 playthrough as like an extended review. That's not the intent. My intent is to entertain my fan base regardless of the game. You could give me E.T. on the Atari 2600, and I'm going to do my best to entertain my fan base, because that's the point of my channel. My point of my channel is not to review anything outside of Weekly Indie Newcomer. I just play games that look interesting or have grabbed my attention over the course of the last year or so as I've watched their development. And so I think there's also a misunderstanding where people are thinking that I'm like Total Biscuit or something like that, and that there's some kind of like journalistic lack of integrity. There's a lack of journalistic integrity here, which honestly, that's not the point of my channel. My job is to make people smile and make them entertained. And so don't take the fact that I'm enjoying my time in H1Z1 as a promotion of the game. I'm just trying to entertain my fan base. My intent was never to have thousands of people stream in who are unfamiliar with my channel and act like I'm in cahoots with John Smedley or something like that. So anyways, let's talk about H1Z1. This will be the video people can point at that all of my opinions are laid bare. We've talked about the lie. The lie is a real thing. If you don't like being lied to, don't support the game. There you go. I don't like being lied to, but by the time I realized the lie, I had already bought the game, and I was just kind of like, well, damn, I already bought the game, so I guess I'll have a good time with it and like record a little series. That's my honest to God truth. That's what happened right there. I found out about the lie after I purchased the game, and I was like, well, the game's already in my inventory. This is before they offered the refunds too. I'm not going to refund the game because I want to watch the development, maybe keep an eye on it. But anyways, so I decided I was going to play the game, do a series, and have a little bit of fun, make the best of a bad situation, and just kind of like go with it. H1Z1 has a lot of problems. I'm enjoying my time in H1Z1, but first and foremost, I'm going to kind of like put down a bullet point list of things that are wrong with the game right now as it stands in early access. First and foremost, early access. A lot of people have problems with early access nowadays, which has led to a lot of people proposing boycotts of early access, Kickstarter, and things like that. I understand there's a lot of disappointment nowadays in gaming. Believe me, I know. My job is to play video games, and I buy a lot of games, and I receive a lot of games from developers, and the disappointment is real sometimes. Nonetheless, even if I'm disappointed, I'll play a game for 5-6 hours and just see if I can find some enjoyment in it because of the way that I grew up around video games. And so H1Z1, I like the engine. I think it runs smoothly. I've had great frame rates all the way through, something that to this day I can't accomplish on DayZ SA. Like DayZ SA has just, I've had the worst luck with it. And I don't want to like talk about this in terms of comparing one to the other, but it's very difficult to do because these are the two very big sharks in the swimming pool. And so with H1Z1, I think that graphically the game is nice to look at and it runs very well and the engine is solid. I think that the server architecture it needs some tuning. It definitely needs some tuning. There are too many people on every server. They need to cap that and just put in queues. I mean, people will complain about the queues, but now people are complaining about there being no loot, and there's people every 4 feet as you're running around. You can't, like, hold your breath. Hold your breath, and before you black out, I promise you'll see, like, 5 players on any server that's not a hardcore server. Even the hardcore servers are fairly tapped out on both loot and resources. And so, first and foremost, a lot of people have seen that, and though they can't prove it, there's sort of this conspiratorial vibe around that the lack of loot is due to them trying to force you into the cash shop. I actually don't think that's the case. I think it's just they kind of mismanaged their servers and there's too many people right now. The reason I say that is because if I log onto a server right after reset, there's guns and loot and ammo everywhere. Like, I logged in, you'll see it in our playthrough. Like, sometimes I respawn and we find some ammo, like, right after we get in, and we find some bullets and a gun, like, probably like 45 minutes after we've been running around. Like, you find stuff around. We're able to defend ourselves. You can build bows. And honestly, if you can find some twine, the upgraded bow is better than some of the guns. The upgraded bow is really, really good. But anyways, that's not the point of this. There is loot around if you are on the server when everything respawns. The areas are chock-a-block. I can go hotel room to hotel room and find lots of stuff. Or, for example, I got into Cranberry, which is the northern city, right after a server reset when all the loot came back, and the place was just filled to the brim with loot. I think the problem is actually that there's too many people on every server, and so the loot is tapped out within 20 minutes every single time the server resets. There's just nothing you can do about it, and the way they need to handle this is, A, either if you're going to keep this many people on the servers, you need to raise the loot respawn like crazy. If you're not going to raise the loot spawn, you need to lower the cap on the servers to like maybe 350, 300 players per server. As of right now, I think they've got it set to like 700 or something like that. I don't have any proof of that. It's just kind of like what I've seen in random, like, they've said something about it on the forums. I remember somebody mentioning like 500 to 700 on a server or something like that, or like you couldn't call in airdrops unless there was 250 people on a server. And since I keep seeing airdrops coming in like all day, every day, I assume that there's more than that on the server. They need to lower the cap and put in a queue, and just people just gonna have to suffer through a queue like you would with any other MMO. Or B, they need to raise the loot respawn. If they're gonna put in the queues, they need to open more servers, obviously, especially for the European people. For real, my heart goes out to all of you because they only gave in the entire EU, they gave you guys like 5 servers, and so it's just like the servers are so crowded right now that the representative experience just isn't there of the game. It's very difficult to review the game or talk about it in any sort of like real observational sense because everything is just so crowded and so out of control right now that it's very, very difficult to find anything, let alone a gun and some ammo. The few times that I've played at like 4 in the morning after a server reset, there's been stuff everywhere, and so the loot spawn locations are there, and when the servers first come back up, the loot will be there. It's just, it vanishes so quickly, especially since some people, a lot of people, myself included, have figured out where all the best loot is, either in Cranberry or in the suburbs. And you just log out right there. And then if there's no loot there, you kind of like quit, come back a couple hours later, log in and see if all the doors are closed to all the houses because the doors close when things respawn. And you just kind of like wait for it. I think that's also happening. I found a number of like enclaves of people just like chilling on the outskirts of Cranberry or on the outskirts of the suburbs, just waiting for everything to respawn. Maybe they have scouts in the city, like little groups of 5 or 6 people, and you'd be amazed how quickly 6 people can tap out like half of Cranberry. Like, I watched people do it today after the server reset. There was a group of like 7 or 8 people, and by the time I came down off the mountain and got to Cranberry, they had looted like an entire city block and a half by themselves. And so, assuming that not only those 8 people are in the city, I think there's just not enough. The respawn time is far too large. The game is glitchy, it's buggy, the zombies go through walls, the wolves fly, the deer seem to randomly burrow into the earth like a mole. All of these things are included in my playthroughs. I didn't edit those out because I want you to see the bugs so that you can decide that if it's for you. I have not edited out a single bug the entire time that I've been playing. If they're humorous, then I'll draw attention to them even more because a funny bug is good for me because my job is entertainment. So there you go. Something's entertaining, I'm going to include it in the video doubly. However, there are problems with the game. The engine aside, which I like a lot better than the Arma engine, zombies are buggy, all animal life is buggy, there's lag almost constantly. I mean, there's at least like a half second of lag, even now after all these server tweaks they've done, where you'll press the E key to loot something, and you can feel the delay in between you saying to loot and it looting. It's not seamless, it's not fast. The game has several frame rate problems, which you'll see in some of my future episodes, where randomly the frame rate just seems to die. Like, you'll be running at 60 frames for 8 hours straight while you play the game, and then for like 45 minutes, you'll drop down to like 42, 41 frames per second, and then randomly it'll go back up and it won't be a problem for the rest of the day. And so that's server side, and I've heard they're working on it, but the game does have problems. I don't want to like just be my job is entertainment, not to review things. And so I think people are just kind of like flooding in. I looked at the demographics, and a lot of people are coming in through the search engine right now. And it's not a lot of my fans that are watching the video, it's people coming in through search. And so I think it's kind of like they don't understand the formatting of my channel, which is gaming entertainment. So aside from that, the loot is bad, the lie is bad, just about everything in the game is buggy and not working at the moment. Waiting for respawns is terrible, but I've managed to find fun in the game as long as I log in somewhere around the time the server goes up. Yeah, the game is enjoyable because there's loot around, you can do things, you can build stuff, you can chop down trees. But if you have the misfortune of logging into the game an hour and a half after the server just reset, there won't be any loot left. There will be nothing on the entire map. It'll all be gone, and you'll be up in the hills beating Bambi to death with a stick so that you can eat that venison and chop down some trees just so you can survive a little bit longer. And so they really, really need to get on these issues. The game has a lot of problems. As of right now, if I had to give it a numerical review, I say that graphically the game is fine. I love what they've done. I like the reflective effects. I like the water effects. I hate the fact that it's raining all the time, though. Why does it rain so much in that game? I don't like that at all. I don't like the fog effect that they've used where it's constantly foggy either. I don't know if they did that to retain frame rate, because if you can see too far, the draw distance causes you to lose performance, but that fog that's always present in the game annoys me too. I don't like that either. The field of vision's okay. I like the field of view. It's tailorable. I think you can take it between 40 and 75 are both ends of the little slider that they give you. You can't mess with the brightness settings, which can totally suck depending on the brightness settings of your monitor. If your monitor, like, I had this problem in my stream where when you window something, it doesn't use the monitor gamma. And so there's no gamma inside the game for you to tweak to fix that. And so, for example, in my stream, it looked like it was pitch black. Like, even in the middle of daytime with the sun right there, it looked like it was pitch black. These are all things that need to be fixed. Like, the game needs gamma controls, the game needs brightness controls so that you can fiddle with things a little bit. Make sure they're not exploitable, because obviously nobody likes gamma cheaters in DayZ. But you need to give us at least some modicum of brightness control, because, like, some of us that are trying to stream the game, you have to apologize to people at the beginning. But like, yeah, it's pitch black right now, and there's nothing I can do about it because the broadcast doesn't take into account the gamma of my monitor, which is balancing it out on my screen. But when it comes through to you, it's super dark, and I have no way to touch that up. There's no way for me to do it. Maybe I could find a broadcasting software to do it, but honestly, there's a lot of things in the game that need to be touched and tailored up, and I don't want people to think that the game is for everybody. It's not. The game, honestly, is only for the most hardcore of early access enthusiasts right now. I would say the same thing about it that I said about DayZ SA, which is give it some time and just kind of like see what happens. I mean, to this day, I don't find DayZ to be that enjoyable. The SA, I like the mod much, much more than I like SA. However, give it a little bit of time is all I can say about H1Z1. At the moment, it's not an enjoyable experience for everybody. I'm enjoying the game because I have a positive outlook and I make the best out of a bad situation. I paid $20. I'm going to enjoy the hell out of this game either way, no matter what. But don't take that as me condoning the fact that it's for everybody. This is only for people that really, really, really want to be in the early access of the game. There's lots of bugs. Almost everything isn't working. Berry bushes bug out. Everything bugs out. Frankly, I ran myself over with a car earlier today that I was inside of. I was driving a car and I just spontaneously died inside of the car. Wasn't a gunshot. The game apparently thought that I was like, so what happened is I got in the car and I accelerated too quickly, and I guess the server thought that I was still outside the car, even though my screen was saying I was in the car, and I ran myself over with my own car. My body was on the ground and in the car, and it was just like, the game is super buggy right now. I would never try and gloss over that fact. At best, I would say it's a 5.5 out of 10 or a 6.0 out of 10. I would say the game is mediocre. It's not amazing, but it's not terrible either. Like, it's very much a middle ground game that's really not going to be everybody's cup of tea right now. And so my final recommendation with H1Z1, so that it's on the docket, it's not okay for Sony to lie to people. I like some aspects of H1Z1. I hate other aspects of it. I hate the bugginess. I hate the way certain things aren't working, but I'm willing to make amends because it's early access. I don't like the fact that you can buy guns. I am totally 100% on the same side with the community on that one. I don't like that you can pay for airdrops, but until they decide to remove it because of the outcry, I would highly recommend that people that have decided not to get refunds, that want to follow the development of the game, be very, very vocal about this, because you really, really need to make a stink about this if you want it to change. Now, Smedley has said they're going to take it out, but, This video was recorded. I also wanted to tell you, this video was recorded after the loot patch. I don't know if I brought that up, but they patched the game and said that it, like, magically increased the loot spawn today. It didn't. I actually found less loot after the patch than I did before, and I logged on, like, right after the server went back up after the patch. So, honestly, there's a lot of bolts to be turned. I mean, there's a lot of rivets that need to be locked into place. Some of them cannot be locked into place based on, like, some of the decisions the developers have made, but I don't want people to misconstrue my enjoyment of making entertainment for my fans in a game that's mediocre to be my my promotion of that game. So there it is. I really don't know what else to say other than that. Like, I've tried to be really, really honest about it, and I've made this video now so that you know how I feel about the game. I find it to be mediocre, but I've been playing it like all day, every day, just because I like it as an alternative to DayZ SA, and I'm too lazy to go install the mod back on Arma 2. So it's just like, I like it better than DayZ SA in certain respects. I like looting in DayZ better because the loot actually exists. But in terms of the engine, I like H1Z1 better. So it's like, it's very much a swing and a miss for me. Like, it's I'm very conflicted about the game right now. I have been playing it a lot. Even in my free time, I've been playing it a ton. So I do enjoy the game when there's loot available. But other than that, I can't do much more than put this, like, I'm going to link this at the beginning of the first episode in case people want my actual impressions of the game in like a journalistic sense, I guess. I'm not a journalist, I'm a geologist, but people wanted to hear my opinion about the game since I've been accused of enjoying the game too much, which has made some people be suspicious. So I do enjoy the game. I'll tell you right now, it's not for everybody, though. It is not for most people, in fact. That's my opinion. I give it like a 5.5, 6.0 out of 10, and just like, I would tell most people to just wait and watch. Because every issue that was in DayZ is in this game, aside from performance issues, and even those are sort of, there are performance issues every now and again. I don't get them as much as some people, but I don't want to drone on for too long. I hope I've made myself clear in this video. I only had time to do one video log, so unfortunately this is going to stand in for the weekend review right now. But I hope I've done a good job at properly explaining myself. I don't know. I don't like it when there's a misconception between me and the people that view my videos, and so I just wanted to be upfront about it and just talk about some of the concerns people had been sending me emails about. And so there it is. I hope this video helps people understand my position a little bit better. I look forward to seeing you all later. I hope that, I mean, I'm probably not going to play H1Z1 too much more because more than anything, what I found is the game is not conducive to recording. It's just like so long in between anything interesting happening. I can run around for 5 hours and record like 20 episodes, and I'll maybe keep like one of them or two of them because the other episodes just aren't interesting enough. So anyways, I will see you all later. I'm really hoping that this stands in and like lets people know how I feel about the game. I'll see y'all later. Hi to everybody.